everyone! So in today's video, I am going to be showing you how to create an Among Us character, which is pretty fun. I know everyone is loving Among Us right now and for literally the past year, I feel like. So I thought this would be kind of fun to show you how to make a character from the game. So here we have my example of the one I just made. So we're going to be kind of replicating this, and I'll be using it kind of like as a guide as we go through this demo. But first things first, we have to move this guy out of the way in order to create our own and to drag some shapes in. So I'm just going to put him all the way in the back there. I'm going to open up my basic shapes, and what you're first going to do is you're going to get a cylinder and a blue sphere out onto your work plane. So I'm just going to do that. You can put them anywhere. I'm going to put them right next to each other. And what we're going to do is highlight both of these shapes. So that's just clicking and dragging to make like the dotted red box like you see on my screen. And you're going to let go so everything's highlighted, and we're going to zoom in. So that is the button right underneath the house. It says fit view to selected shapes. So it's just going to bring you a little bit closer. For me, it didn't have to bring me that close because I was already zoomed in, but for you, you're probably a little bit further out, so that'll just bring us a little bit closer so we can see what we're doing. So now what we have to do is we're just going to click off, and we're going to click on the cylinder first. So we're going to bump up the steps in the cylinder to make this a little bit more smooth. And you might be like, what do you mean, Miss Dolge, by steps? Now, if we look over here, there's something called steps, and right now it's on 18. I'm just going to show you what it looks like if I bring it all the way down. You can see how the shape is changing and becoming a little bit more rigid. But if we add tons of shapes, or steps, I should say, and bring it all the way to 24, it's really, really, really smooth, right? It's definitely a big difference from going to, let's just say, like 4 all the way to 24. All right, so what you're going to do is you're going to make sure the sphere, the steps are all the way up to 24. So you're just going to click and drag all the way over till you can't anymore. Well, for the cylinder, we can kind of do the same thing, because if we look closely, you could see kind of the edges of the cylinder, and we definitely want to make this a little bit smoother, but not too smooth. Okay, so we're not going to push the sides all the way to the end. What we're going to do is you're going to click on that 20 and you're going to type in 48. Okay, so we're not going all the way to the end, but we're going kind of like, a little bit more than halfway. All right, so you could see now it's a little bit more smooth, not 100%, but that's exactly what we want. So again, I just did that by clicking on the number, typing in the 48, clicking enter, and we're good to go. Or of course you could use the slide bar to move it to 48. So now what we're going to do is we're going to highlight both of these shapes and we're going to align them. So the align button is right up at the top. You could hover over each one if you're not sure what it looks like. The best way for me to describe the align tool is kind of like a sideways bar graph almost. So I'm just going to click that. And we're going to align both of these shapes to the middle. So we're going to click on the middle dot on the x-axis, and we're going to click on the middle dot on the y-axis. And you can see kind of now we can't see that sphere at all, right? It's inside that cylinder because it's centered right on top of each other. All right, so now what we're going to do is we want to be able to see that sphere, right? So we're going to lift the cylinder so we could see the sphere kind of poking out on the bottom. So what we're going to do is just click off to the side. So we get out of the align tool. And then you're going to click on the cylinder. Now, yes, we could just go like this and lift the cylinder up so you can see the sphere, but we want to lift this up a certain height. Okay, and just doing this right now, we don't get any dimension lines if we hover over the tool that we use to lift objects in TinkerCAD. So what TinkerCAD wants you to do first is lift the object a little bit first, and then you can put your dimension in for how high you want to lift this object. So what you're going to do is just lift it a little bit up, and you can see now that number 2 right, comes up, and then there's also a line down here that also says 2. So I'm going to click on the one on the bottom, and we're going to lift it 10, like that. So now you should see a little bit of the sphere poking out from the bottom, which is exactly what we want. And then what we have to do is we have to put a sphere on the top. So what we're going to do is you're going to click on the bottom sphere. You could either come over here and click on the duplicate button, or you could just copy and paste. It's up to you. So that's Control C and Control V. I'm going to click the duplicate button. And now I should have a duplicate of the sphere. Can't really see it, right? Because it goes in the exact same spot. But again, with this one, we have to lift it up a little bit so we're able to adjust that height. So I'm going to lift it up. And now we can see that the 3 is there, right? And then I'm going to change this 3 to 20. And there we go. Now the other sphere went to the top of our cylinder. So what we just made right here, without you even knowing, is the body for your Among Us character. So now we have to make the legs. In order to make the leg piece, what we need to do is duplicate or copy and paste this cylinder and the lower sphere. So to do that, we're just going to click a little bit off to the side, hold the click, drag that red box, make sure it's covering that cylinder and the bottom sphere, and we're going to duplicate. Now, don't click anything yet because nothing's grouped. So what you're going to do is on your keypad, use the arrow keys to move it to the side. It doesn't matter if you use it left or right, does not matter, but you should now see your other piece on the other side of your body. All right, so this is going to be the leg. So again, to make sure that everything stays together, make sure that you use the arrow key on your keyboard to move it. Don't click on it and drag it because that bottom sphere won't be with the cylinder since we did not group it yet. So now, after you get everything moved and everything situated and you have your body here and you got your leg piece over here, now we can group since we have all of our pieces together. So we're going to group these separately. So I'm going to group this one first. So you just highlight the whole thing, click group, and there we go. We have one solid piece now. So I'm going to move him over to the side. And then we're going to do the same thing for the leg. We're going to group that one, have it turn orange. And now we're going to focus a little bit more on the leg. So I'm going to move this guy a little bit off to the side so I could pull this one closer. And we gotta adjust the dimensions for the leg, right? We can't have this big of a leg on our Among Us character here. So what we're going to do is you're going to change the dimensions of this. So you're gonna go to the bottom right white box. And right now it says 20 by 20. We're gonna cut that in half, that diameter. So we're gonna make this 10 by 10. There we go. And right now my leg's kind of high up, right? So right now it should be 30, right? But we're gonna make this 18. I found that 18 is a pretty solid number. And there we go. That looks a little bit better of a leg, right, to put on our body. So again, the diameter is 10. And up top for the height, we have 18. Once you have your dimensions set for your leg, you can copy and paste, or you can click the duplicate button and you will have a carbon copy for your 2 legs. All right, so I'm gonna move these guys a little bit over so I can bring the body back in. And now we have to adjust the dimensions of this body because right now he's not looking like our guy back here. So we need to adjust this height first, right? Definitely a little bit tall. So I'm going to zoom out here so we can see here. And right now it's 40. So I'm going to change this to 29. I know, very specific, but trust me, it looks pretty good once it's done, as you can see. So now that we adjusted the height, we have to adjust the dimensions down here. So the width is going to be 24, and the thickness is going to be 16. And there we go. I'll spin it around a little bit so you could see the body. So it's definitely a lot smaller and a lot like how the Among Us characters actually look. So now what we're going to do is we're going to bring these legs over, and you're going to put them inside the body right now, because we have to lift this body, right? So the body is over the legs, because right now they're all on the same plane. So now this is kind of up to you on how high you want to lift the body. You could either just free lift it, okay, but I'm actually going to change it to 9. Right, because I find that it looks like, I like how it looks when it's raised up 9. You could do 10, you could do 12. I want to go past like 12, but it's up to you. So I'm going to show you how I did that again. So right now the body's just down here hanging out. We have to lift it up a little bit to show that dimension line. So I have to click on that little cone right there. We'll see that 4 pop up on the bottom. I'm going to change that to 9. And then once you get your height down, we got to move these legs a little bit inward, right? So again, this is up to you on if you want them, you know, closer in the front or the back, or what I like to do, of course, is to make the legs in the middle, right? But again, it's up to you. So I'm just gonna click on a leg and use my arrow keys to kind of push it back. So you can see now it's in centered in my guy. So I'm gonna do the same thing and rotate to the other side. And I'm gonna use the arrow keys to move it. You could also figure out the spacing you want between the legs. So right now that's what he looks like, but maybe I want to move the leg out a little bit more to look like that. It's up to you, and how you want your little guy to look like. So I'm gonna leave my legs kind of in one. You could see how it looks if I leave it out, but I kind of like the leg in a little bit more than out. So that's what I'm gonna do. Again, up to you on how you want to position your legs, but make sure that you're spinning around so your legs aren't like this, right? They're not sticking out from any of the sides. All right, so once we have that figured out, right, our body's almost done. We have to just figure out this shield part, right? The eye covering. So what we're going to use for that is actually the body, and we're just going to change the dimensions of it. So you're going to click on the body, you're going to copy and paste it, and we're going to move it to the side. And the dimensions of this, we're first going to start with the height. We're going to make it 11. I know, again, very specific. Then we're going to do the width, 16. And the other number over here, so the thickness is going to be 10. And there we go. I'm going to spin around just to show you what it looks like. It looks a little bit thick, right? Like it doesn't look like, you know, thin pressed against the face, but once we move it, which I'll show you in a second, once we move it inward into the body, that's not even going to matter. So what we're going to do before we even put it into the body is we're going to change the color of this just so we could see it, because if we left this orange right now, it might be hard to position this thing. So you're just going to click on that color up here, and I'm going to make it white. It's up to you on what color you would like to make it. And then you could drag it on over. Once you drag it over, you could try and get it kind of to the middle of the body as close as you can. Again, use those arrow keys. I find they're very, very helpful. Right, so you can keep moving them back and forth. And then once you get to the spot you like, you could lift it up. Now, the height, or like from the bottom. Does not matter in this case. Okay, you could put them as high as you want, as low as you want. It's up to you. Of course, should be towards the top somewhere, but it doesn't need to be a specific dimension or a certain height or certain lift height. So now I could just turn around, orbit a little bit, just see how far it's actually going in. I can adjust that if I want to, so you could see that now it's going in slightly more. All right, if I go in one more, I won't see anything. So let's see how that looks from the front. Looks pretty good. I think I'm gonna leave it like that. So we're almost done, right? The only thing we need to do is we need to make his little pack for his back, right? So like basically like a backpack, cylinder looking thing. So again, for this, we're going to use the body. So I'm going to copy and paste the body again. And the dimensions of the body that we're going to change it to make it for this backpack is the height's going to be 15. And then it's going to be 12 wide. And the other number is going to be for the thickness, which is going to be 10. And there we go. So now we're going to rotate our little guy here, and we're going to place it on the back of him. Again, it's up to you on how high up or how low you want this on his back. Right now, for me, it's a little too low, right? If we're actually making this like an Among Us character, it's kind of like positioned in the middle of the body there. So get it as close as you can. It doesn't have to be perfect. And then you could reposition how far out you want to see that backpack or how far in you want it. So I'm gonna make mine like this. And I'm just gonna rotate around. And you could see, now that I rotated around, I could see that, you know, it's not perfectly centered. So I'm gonna center him, or center this backpack, I should say. And I'm gonna lift it up a little bit more, actually. And I also see my legs aren't 100%, there we go, even. So you could also fix anything else if you need to, as you see fit. So now I'm going to just turn him back. And I gotta push this one back a little bit more since I moved it. And there we go. There is our Among Us character. So now before we group, what you need to do is you need to change the color, right? Because once you group, everything changes one color and you have to click back on multicolor to change it to the color you originally had. So I'm going to change the color to something different than orange just to show you. You could see here for my teal guy over here, teal is not one of the colors in the presets. So if you want a custom color, right, like teal, like how I did back here, you just click this custom button and then a whole color wheel comes up. So you don't even have to pick like a basic preset color, or because I think the teal is probably the most unique in Among Us of the colors you could choose from. So if you want like a crazy color that isn't even in Among Us, you could do that if you want to. Or you could even have the legs different than its body, but I'm just gonna, you know, play by the rules and kind of do everything one color, just so I could show you here. I'm gonna do pink here, and make sure you rotate to the back to get that backpack there. And there you go. Now the only thing we gotta do is group, right? So I'm going to highlight this whole thing and click group. And you'll notice that it turns one color. So don't, freak out when it turns all one color. I know it's like scary at first, because even sometimes I get scared, but then you have to remember, right, we grouped it, so it's all one shape. So it's going to turn the color of the part of your object that has the most color, which of course was the body, so that's why it changed this whole thing, the purplish pink color that I chose. To change it back to the colors that you originally had, all you're going to do is click on that color again, click multicolor, and you should be good to go. And you can move this guy around freely. You could even, position him a little bit and rotate him. You could even make like a whole Among Us scene if you want to in TinkerCAD. You could even, which is pretty awesome, you can copy and paste all of these now and just have tons of characters on one work plane. And like I said, you can make like kind of like a scene with them all. And let's just say you do copy and paste. You might be like, well, Miss Dolch, the color, right? All you have to do is double click on the character, then click on the part that you want to change, right? You'll see that little red box there, and then I can just change the color. So once you make one, and I think I forgot over here, this backpack. So let me double click again, click on the backpack. There we go. Then click off. He'll turn red, and once he's done, which he is, then you could move him around again. So it's kind of nice because once you make one, like I said, you don't have to make another one. And let's just say, you want to make it a different dimension. Maybe you want to make shorter ones. You could do that. You could adjust your characters how you see fit.